Good. This is my first ever like playing for people, so I'm a little nervous. So at any point, if you guys want to sing along and clap, these are pretty well-known songs, so feel free to join. Yeah. Oh, this song is I'm Not the Only One, by the way, by Sam Smith. You and me, we made a vow, for better or for worse. Woo! I can't believe you let me down, but the proof's in the way it hurts. For months on end I had my doubts, denying every tear. I wish this would be over now, but I know I still need you here. You say I'm crazy, 'cause you don't think I know what you've done. But when you call me baby, I know I'm not the only one. You've been so unavailable. Now sadly I know why. Your heart is unattainable, even though Lord knows you have mine. You say I'm crazy, 'cause you don't think I know what you've done. Yeah, but when you call me baby, I know I'm not the only one. I have loved you for many years. Maybe I am just not enough. You made me realize my deepest fears by lying and tearing us up. You say I'm crazy, 'cause you don't think I know what you've done. Yeah, but when you call me baby, I know I'm not the only one. And I know, 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 no, I know I'm not the only one.
I'm 23 years old. I grew up in Queens, New York. At the moment, I work with kids with autism. I'm a one-to-one behavioral aide, and I work in the energy center with a couple of kids at the gym. Mostly, what I say my passion and my calling is like I pursue music and like creating an art form. I'm also big into acting and stuff like that. Just anywhere I can create and put my ideas into the world. I started really early. I started at maybe like 4 or 5. Actually, my mom had me into ballet first, and then she took me out because when she came to see a class, she saw me chasing girls. But I was also doing piano then, and that kind of influenced me into opening up to many different instruments. Like I started piano, then I picked up drums, then I taught myself guitar, and then singing kind of just came along.
You say you want all of my life, take it all then press rewind, bring me back just to make things right. Living alone with these lies, but what's the middle finger to the peace sign? You're supposed to be holding me, close to me, the one that was real with me.
First and foremost, the kind of music I do is kind of like pop, R&B, a little bit of soul. You know, I do here and there. I'll add a little rap into my pop kind of music and stuff like that. I like to experiment like with like EDM. Like I've worked with a lot of DJs who wanted me to kind of put my voice on something. But when I write for myself, it's mostly R&B and pop. I think what mostly got me is like on Sunday mornings, my mom would be singing Motown, so that kind of edged me into like having that natural, like good kind of vibe, kind of voice, and like, you know, trying to pick people up with my voice. As far as like adding a beat or like adding my guitar in the background, I kind of got that from like Justin Timberlake, Usher, Jesse McCartney. I just remember when I was little, like going to sleep, I would hear Jesse McCartney on the radio, and like I would literally sing that song to myself to sleep. And like, I'm not really proud of it, maybe a little bit, but Natasha Bedingfield, like the Unwritten song, that would play every night, and I could not go to sleep unless I sang that to sleep. So a lot came from, like, a lot of my early childhood stuff came from that. And then I think when I turned 12 or 13, my brother got me my first CD player, and my first CD ever was Usher, like the Confession tapes, and that sang every day, knew it back and forth, word for word. So I guess that kind of pretty much shaped everything that I do and how I write and stuff. If you can picture like being an empty kind of carcass just walking around with no purpose, that's what music would be for me, because it's like my every passion, every desire. It like fulfills me as a human being. I think music is important in a sense of like it kind of captures you in a hypnotic kind of stance, because there's a certain rhythm to it, and once that rhythm catches you in a trance, then the words just kind of play in your mind. So like, for instance, you could say you hate this song, but like unconsciously you're there singing the words, and that's because that song had already caught you in like a kind of trance where the words were in your head, and now it's just playing in your mind, and your body can't help but to sing that song. So I guess it's kind of like a powerful tool. It depends what message you're trying to send along, because that's what everyone else is going to perceive. So like, if I'm trying to tell you about love, then the best way I'm going to do it is through a song, because most people can relate to like the way people tell a story through like song, and being that it's kind of entranced in your mind, like you're constantly thinking about it, you're singing about it. So it's like a way of writing a letter, but in song form. I think at this moment, love is like one of the things that I write about, like that's mostly in my songs at this current moment, because it's what I'm living through at the moment. Like one of the biggest things that I'm going through right now, like in my relationship, and like loving myself, loving who I'm with, and loving people around me. So yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest things that I'm working with right now. Maybe a couple years from now, whatever is the next biggest thing that I'm going through or struggling with, I think that would be what I'd write about. I try to write straight from the heart. So whatever is conflicting with me or that I have a resonance with, that's kind of what I write about. Yeah, I definitely think you can learn a lot through yourself by the way you love people and others around you. You definitely get a sense of like what you can tolerate, what you are capable of. For like example, like I've learned that I'm a giver. Like I love to give. Like the satisfaction that I get from being able to make someone smile, or just knowing that I did my best and I gave my best efforts out in the world. Like I don't need it in return. Like, but I'm happy giving. And like I think a lot of people get caught up in like tit for tat kind of thing. But you know, in relationships you kind of learn what altruistic love is, like loving without a purpose. And I think that's what the world needs more of. You definitely get a sense of the deepest parts of you, because they say no one can piss you off more than your mother or your spouse. So you definitely get a sense of, you know, who you are at your worst and who you are at your best, and who's going to be there for you at your worst and your best. So. So there's a lot to learn through yourself. Like, you know, people try to find their happiness through someone else, and like they kind of let go of their own inner happiness. And like at the end of the day, it's like you don't know for sure if that person's gonna be there. So if you're living for someone else, at the end of the day, they left something they've created. They left a shell, because you're not you. You're the person that they created. And I think there comes a point where you have to figure out like who you are as your own person and who you are within a relationship. Like, you know, sometimes maybe you never thought that you were a jealous person, but as soon as you're in that relationship, you're getting jealous that so and so, you know, like walked out the house looking like this, or they did this with someone, or like they're hanging out with a friend, and you're getting jealous or insecure because of, you know, things that you never ever thought of. Like, sometimes you need that aspect of having someone care for you, or you giving out that emotion in order to know, like, okay, this is my weak point, you know, this is how I act when this kind of situation is involved. I think that's you need that, because as human beings, we're social creatures, and outside of the aspect of like getting yourself together and being you, like, who are you when other people are around? Are you the same you that you found, or are you some person that's completely different that you need to kind of shape in the social aspect? There's definitely a spiritual need of like the personal aspect of finding, like, resonating with yourself as part of a relationship. Like, there's a point where you have to, when you find that person, it's like you can't bring them to be with you. You can't bring anyone to be with you, but you have to know and trust that the universe is giving you people that is meant to be in your life, and people that it'll take away people that, you know, that you don't need. And I think a lot of that is part of resonating with yourself and knowing that you attract good, and you attract what's meant to you, what's meant to be for you. When I write about love, it's not like the kind of love that's like picture perfect. Like, there's a lot of ups and downs. Like when my album Memory Lane that's coming out in a couple months, it talks about, you know, finding that person that's meant to be for you. Like, it's the fact that you've gotten lost in love, and you've kind of had to figure out like who you are. In a lot, there's one song I have, it's called You're Loved. It's not from my aspect of love. It comes from, I talk about love in the sense of a girl, like what a girl's aspect is of, like, they go a lot through like hard relationships with guys who've made them feel worthless, and they've lost themselves trying to be with this guy, but, you know, they end up getting lost themselves, being a shadow of this guy, and then all of a sudden the guy leaves, and like now they're all distraught because, you know, instead of like being them, they spend time trying to please someone else instead of themselves, and they lost their happiness. So a lot of the music I write, I kind of write in the form of a story of how love grows through a relationship, not just the ups but the downs, kind of like raw love, like what you actually experience, because the only way people can relate to love or relate to your music is if you're describing everyday emotions that they feel. I love to read. Like, I love just sitting down and reading a good book. You know, there's a lot to say about a story. Like, it makes you think, okay, what made this author think of this? Like, what made them write this kind of story? What kind of mindset were they in? And like, I always say, like, I like watching movies. I love acting, and like I just love being able to be absorbed in the story. And I always say, like, whenever I see things in 3, that means it's gonna happen somewhere in the universe, because a lot of people are on the same page thinking that this is about to happen. So someone somewhere out there, someone is making it happen. So I mean, a lot of things that I like to see are like where the world is headed futuristically, or, you know, what happened in the past. and a lot has to do with spiritual meaning, spiritual awakening, and just like people trying to conquer death. So, I mean, for me, I like to find purpose and meaning in stories and movies. So a lot of analyzing. I like people watching, just seeing how people interact. I like to keep myself at, a nice spiritual level where I can sit down and know myself. I like to go to the gym, mind, body, I gotta have the equilibrium. I like hanging out and just being with people, There's nothing better than a room full of people who can communicate and feel happiness, Any form of creating, at the core of creation is the same person. Whether it's through writing or making a song or even drawing, like it's fueled by an emotion. So like one of the books I'm reading right now is It by Stephen King. I'm pretty sure everyone knows it's about like this killer clown that went on a rampage, and it's haunted a town for I think like 13 years or something like that. And that could be like me writing a song. I could be angry or I could be scared, and I could write a song about how I've been haunted by this demon for so long, or I've acted out on this anger emotion. And you kind of get that same, like, maybe it's not the same exact story, but you get the same vibe. Like, I'll feel scared reading It, and you could feel scared listening to my song. So, or you can get scared looking at a picture that I drew or a picture that someone took. It's all about harnessing that emotion that came from that creation. There's a lot that this world has to offer, and so often we lose track of that because people tell us we need to focus on something else, or we're so caught up in our head that we lose sight of the important and the most beautiful things that are literally right in front of us. So whenever you go through your day and you feel like life is spiraling or it's moving too fast, just take a step back, sit down, think about the things that are right in front of you, the things you have, the things that are constant, the things that the things that you love. Because those are the things that are going to be there for you at the end of the day. And always remember to take care of you, because that's you. You only have one you. I've always dwindled back and forth between like what I'm meant to do, what I'm supposed to do. And I found that music was the one thing that no matter how many times I walked away from, it always came back. And no matter how many times I gave up and came back to it, each time I came back better than I was before. So I can tell you that in a couple of months I'm gonna be out there and you're gonna be hearing my song. I know that for a fact. Just it's about persistence, knowing what you're capable of and doing it. You can follow me on Instagram at BCKenz, BCKenz. I do a lot of covers. I just did a photo shoot today with my best friend over here. So photos are coming soon. I have a website out. The link is in my Instagram bio. My YouTube is BMack is here. BMACK is here. Twitter is Brandon McKenzie without the E at the end. That's about all of them. But definitely be sure to catch me there. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. Don't want to miss out.